My name is Vern Martin. I was born in Brookings, South Dakota, 1922. My father, Marion Martin, was born in White, South Dakota. My mother, her maiden name was Gladys Pearson, and she was born in Bushnell, South Dakota.
Vern served in the 14th AAF. Unlike the other air forces created during World War II, the 14th was not the typical plan from the top military organization. During World War II, the China-based 14th Air Force was the most short-lived of the numbered air forces, existing for a period of less than 34 months. What was your job, and where were some places you traveled to?
The only purpose for us being on that plane was that we were to guard the plane whenever we landed at a field that didn't have an armed guard. It didn't happen a lot. Many places that we stopped, it had armed guard, and we didn't have to guard it. And we went to 36th Street Airport, Trinidad, Belém, Brazil, Natal, Brazil, Ascension Islands, which is a little island in the Pacific. It's a volcanic eruption, and so when you land, you can't see the end of the runway because it goes up like this and goes down. So it was fun.
The 14th Air Force Headquarters perceived itself as responsible for the following military objectives: to defend the Allied supply lines over the Himalayas, to seek and destroy enemy aircraft and troop concentrations, to destroy enemy military and naval installations, to interdict and destroy enemy shipping along China's coastline and inland waterways, to provide close air support to Chinese ground forces, and lastly, to encourage the Chinese resistance to assist AAF airmen in enemy-occupied territories. In short, they were to stall Japanese forces as long as possible, not to defeat them. Describe the trips these planes would take.
Now basically what happens, the crew will take the plane at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's about a 13-hour round trip. They fly out into the of many different things: lubrication, gasoline, oil, ammunition, bombs. All of those things contributed to whether or not we could send out an airplane, and many times we didn't have that. We went to the Gold Coast of Africa, which is the western coast, and we were going to go to Khartoum, but they had a sandstorm and we couldn't make it, so we landed at a British field and stayed there, and the next day the sandstorm had cleared.
The 308th Bombardment Group was a heavy bomber unit that was based in China from March 1943 until June 1945, from where it supported the Chinese and attacked the Japanese Empire from the west. The group's base was at Kunming in China, but its supply bases were in India, so the group spent much of its time operating as a transport unit, helping to transport its own equipment across the hump. The group was assigned to the 14th Air Force and made many trips over the hump between India and China to obtain gasoline, bombs, spare parts, and other items they needed to prepare for and sustain their combat operations. The 308th supported Chinese ground forces, attacked airfields, coal yards, docks, oil refineries, and fuel dumps in French Indochina.
We went to 2 or 3 bases there, and then we stayed at this base for probably over a week because it rained. We couldn't get out. And then it cleared. So they loaded our plane with oxygen, and we had to go the northern route over the hump to get into China, because the southern route, the Japanese had been shooting down planes pretty prolifically. And so we started to climb, and we reached an elevation of 21,000, and we were icing up. We didn't have any de-icer boots along the front, and the ice started to build up on all of these surfaces, and all of a sudden and we're in a cloud bank with no vision. We couldn't see anything, but we knew There were some mountains on this side and on this side.
Vern was the only survivor on the plane while going over the hump. Vern also served in the 374th and 373rd Heavy Bomb Squadron, which were assigned to the 308th Bombardment Group throughout its World War II existence.
Were there any stores that you could buy necessities from?
Have that where officers and enlisted men could buy shaving cream, candy, stuff like that. Well, you'd think that it'd be open all the time, but it wasn't. It was open once a month. So you went in there and you bought every cotton picking thing you could buy because you knew you wouldn't get a chance until a month from now. And then if anybody ran out of cigarettes, you didn't give them any because you knew they'd taken their cigarettes into Kunming, which was only about 30 miles, and sold them on the black market.
The black market was where people were forced to sell off surplus possessions in order to purchase supplementary food. It was prohibited by law, but World War II encouraged widespread black market activity.
What were the living conditions like in China?
You didn't have any springs on your bed. You had a mattress and you had twine that was laced crosswise and lengthwise.
What kind of food was available?
We would go into Kunming and have buffalo steak dinners. We did have an ice cream making machine in our squadron. So about once every month we had ice cream.
What was it like to leave your family for a long period of time?
I told my mother I didn't want her to cry. And of course she was diligent in writing both my brother and me almost daily. The only thing she forgot to do was to date her letters. So I've got a whole box of unrelated letters from my mother that I can't figure out which is one and which is two and so forth.
Oh no.
But she certainly was diligent about sending us stuff. And what they did, she would send a cake. But instead of having the top closed, it was covered with plastic.
Not only did Vern keep in touch with his mother, but he met up with his brother in Luliang, China. At the time, you were not able to serve at the same station as other family members because of what happened to the Sullivan brothers.
What medals did you receive for your service?
Yeah, Army of Occupation Japan, American Theater, Asiatic Pacific Theater, the Good Conduct Medal, and the Victory Medal. That was the extent of my medals.
Sergeant Vern P. Martin was awarded 3 commemorative medals in World War II and several other medals.
Could you show us some artifacts and explain what they are?
374th. This is 14th Air Force. And this is worn usually inside the jacket of every member who flew, whether they were flying a pursuit plane by themselves or if they were in a crew. Because basically what this says is that I'm an American soldier, and if you get me back to my base, you will be rewarded.
On the airstrip at Chengheng, China, on November 24, 1944, at about 9 p.m., bombs like this one were dropped by the Japanese. He was working in a bomber next to the strip and picked this up after the bombing.
Dropped a bunch of anti-personnel bombs, and this is the bomb part is blown off, but the fins and the back of the bomb is there. They were small, and we only lost one man.
Did you experience anything significantly dangerous during your journey?
Crewman would clear his gun, one round would come out and he'd put it in his pocket, and then when he got back to the barracks, he would put it in his We had dressers, believe it or not. The Chinese gave us, and they put them in there. Well, when that fire started, these things started blowing off.
How long did you serve in the Air Force?
Years, 2 months, and 12 days.